look, again, NVIDIA told me Blackwell was going to be sampling and they would ship in volume in the second half. Information says it's slipped. It's not going to be shipping in volume maybe in the second half. Now, some people were saying, well, therefore it's not going to be ready until 25. I'm not getting that. So would I buy NVIDIA down 12? I think you buy NVIDIA down 12.
Yeah.
And then if it goes to 86, you buy more. I mean, what are they going to tell you? It's not that dangerous to buy.
Whether they're delayed or not, it's not an issue of demand. It's an issue of supply.
Right.
And investors typically don't care as much about supply. If you tell me there's not demand, that's a change in value.
My sources indicate that Zuckerberg would take every single one of the Blackwells.
Right.
The customers are there. I think the Amazon conference call discouraged people because they said, look, we have to buy, and Google said we have to buy. Amazon's making some chips, but they're not equal to Blackwell. But look, NVIDIA's been too hot. This is a huge correction for NVIDIA, not unlike when their stuff was being used to mine crypto. But do I want to toss out NVIDIA? No. Do I want to buy Amazon right here? Kind of, yeah. David, Amazon was at 200. Now it's at 154. So let's say I want to have 100 shares of Amazon. I buy 25. Then see if it goes down another $3. I'll buy another 25. I'm trying to be a little dispassionate because the level of fear right now is out of whack with the facts.
Right.
And again, I apologize to Warren Buffett. What I'm really saying is that Warren Buffett did not sit down with Tim Cook in the go out or the go in. And I think you have to make your own decision. You have to make your own decision. And I thought that Apple had the best quarter of all these big companies other than Mega. And I don't want to blow out all these stocks because of Japanese selling, Japanese related selling.
Yeah.
Related selling.
Understood. Take a look at the losers, and there's NVIDIA right at the top.
ARM, I'm a little worried about. ARM had a fine quarter, but I'm worried about that because Masa-san owns a huge amount.
And we'll explain what the concern is. Yes.
Well, because
SoftBank completely controls ARM. I mean, this float is still very small in terms of the percentage that's out there.
The stock opened to 50. The stock was at $58.
But we don't know what SoftBank's been up to in terms of the yen. What do you in terms of the yen or in terms of?
We don't know if they did the trade either. See, we don't know a lot, but we know that they can come back.
Therefore, that they might have to sell some ARM.
Right.
Is that what you're?
That's what I'm worried about. Now, NVIDIA, can I just say that there will be a consideration that the information story is not right. That there's
the
not
story
a
that
big
says that they have to delay the Blackwell a bit?
Right, because again, if the company tells me that, look, nothing's really changed since August. You could say that they made, and since July, from July to August, you could say that their statement was amorphous. Or you could say, well, you know what they're trying to say during quiet period, we're fine. Mm-hmm. It's during what a great time to hit a company over the weekend in a really bad market when they're in quiet and they can't defend themselves, when they're a pitiful, helpless giant. So I sit here and I say, you know what? If I want to react to the story in the information, I should just do another job. I should just become a full-time watcher of Peacock. I don't know. Like, you want to have some prudence.
All fair.
Some thought.
All fair.
There should be more thought involved. If you just want to join how about the great Russell trade? How's that working now? It turns out that you couldn't get out. It was a Roach Motel trade because the buy-in was all with the futures, and they wouldn't stop you out on the go out. That's what I'm told. You wouldn't say, listen, we'll take you out down 3%. They would not. No broker would do that. So the Russell, what a great trade. Fantastic. What did I like about it was small cap. Small cap was good. You have to know what you're doing. That should be a prerequisite.
Chris Casso is here, Wolfe Research senior analyst, and maybe you want to speak to the intel of it all because that's a stock that's getting hit this morning. But by the way, did it get hit last week?
It did. And, what happened with Intel was something very specific to them. It's about the investment that they've been making to repair their manufacturing and the fact that they've missed AI. So it's really a bit at odds with why NVIDIA has been so strong, which has obviously been one of the factors powering the market. But it's actually not separate because Intel's missing out on AI is one of the reasons why they're in the situation they're in right now. But it doesn't speak to what's happening in NVIDIA, which is still considerable strength. Right?
So, but here's the question: I think on a morning like this, when you see the stock at this price, do you say to yourself, we were talking about sort of Warren Buffett, sail on aisle 5, and are you thinking this is fabulous? Or are you thinking, my God, this is a falling knife and it's got a lot more to fall?
Right. And I always have respect for the markets when they're doing something like they're doing today and what they did on Friday. With respect to NVIDIA, I would say the fundamentals are still really strong. the valuation is not, it never got to a bubble-like valuation. Right now we're at $4 of earnings for 25 for NVIDIA. I think it's going higher than that. It's about a 25 multiple. That's a really good price for, what's arguably one of the most important stocks in the market.
So when you think about, let's go even more broadly now, just think AI for a second, because that's the other piece of this. And we're looking at Apple this morning, Dan. I know it's not a stock that you cover per se, but it's indicative of this sort of larger issue. We saw Warren Buffett take his stake in that company down. I think that's also probably weighing on Apple in addition to everything else that's going on. But do you see a sort of massive super cycle, if you will, over the next year or two because of AI in terms of all hardware upgrades across the board? Or do you see a lot of chips being sold, to power power the AI, but in the cloud? Well,
it's really, you could break it into three buckets. One is AI for NVIDIA themselves, which is, powering the models itself. That's the first thing you need, and that's
first order of business. And that's not going away.
That's not going away. Then the second part is with regard to, smartphones and then PCs. We're much more bullish on AI on smartphones. And a lot of that is because of what Apple did, which says you have to have an iPhone 15 Pro or better to run Apple AI, whether or not you need it, whether or not you want it. And that's because Apple has control of the ecosystem in doing that. Right. We're less bullish on that from the PC side. Okay. And that's because, neither Microsoft nor Intel can, it's not in Microsoft's interest to force you into buying a new PC, for example.
Because NVIDIA was 141. It's going to open today at 96. That's 32% right there. So, it was over 3 trillion. It's theoretically could be at some point under 2 trillion. Yeah. I mean, if NVIDIA has been the market leader, and obviously it went much further than anything else, but we're not looking for the NASDAQ to go down 32%, are we? It's only down 10. And as we were saying, the S&P and Dow are down 6% and 4%. NVIDIA's down 32%. Who catches up with whom?
Well, and remember, NVIDIA, the rise of NVIDIA was commensurate with the rise in earnings. They've been making money. The multiple.
What is this? When it's down to what's it doing now? It's down 32%.
And I would imagine we've spoken to investors over the last week, and some of that was, you see potentially what's happening in the market. People sniffing out this pullback. NVIDIA is a stock for which they made the most amount of money. That's where your profits are. I had a really good year. Let's not screw up the year right now. Let's take some money off the table.
Can people call you and they say, do you say to them, this is all cheap today, go buy, go buy, go buy? Or do you say, hold your fire?
Listen, we're still there. Personally, I think this is a bit of a mid-cycle correction because we haven't seen it in the fundamentals. Okay. That we haven't seen, if we were to see AI adoption, for example, slowing down, that would be a concern to me. What we heard this quarter so far from the hyperscalers, for example, is that CapEx spending is really strong right now. And the reason is they just have no ability not to spend right now. Yep. And that's good for my stocks over time.
Chris, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, it has been a rough few trading days in the market, so let's start by talking about the market as a whole and then zero in on NVIDIA after that. So why has the market been pulling back so much the past few days? There are actually multiple reasons. First and foremost, we got some bad economic data last week. Last Thursday, manufacturing PMI came in much worse than expected, showing a contraction. The report showed prices rising, new construction spending came in negative, and initial jobless claims came in higher than expected. Then on Friday, we got more bad economic data, the most notable of which was the non-farm payrolls, which came in at 114,000, which was much less than the 175,000 that we were expecting. And with that new jobs data on Friday, the SOM rule was triggered. As I mentioned in last Friday's video, the SOM rule is a recession indicator that, when triggered, indicates that we may already be in a recession. And last Friday, the St. Louis Fed's real-time recession indicator moved above the 0.5 threshold and triggered the SOM rule. All of this has market participants worried that the Fed has waited too long to cut interest rates and that we may already be in a recession. But there's more. We also have the situation with the Japanese yen and the unwinding of the carry trade. I'm not going to go too deep into this one right now, but I will give a very simplified explanation of what's happening here. Essentially, Japan has been fighting deflation for many years, while most of the rest of the world has been dealing with inflation. And so Japan has maintained low interest rates for quite some time now, even as other central banks around the world raised interest rates and kept interest rates higher. Because of this, many market participants would borrow cheap money from Japan at low interest rates and then use that money to purchase U.S. assets, such as U.S. stocks. But here's what has changed. Japan is finally seeing inflation, and so they are finally raising interest rates. And so now the market is freaking out because their source of cheap, low-interest cash is going away. Now, I'll be completely honest in saying that this situation is much more complicated and complex, but for the sake of time, this is a very simplified summary of the situation. So back to the US markets. We have recession fears that the Fed is behind the curve in cutting interest rates. We have the unwinding of the carry trade in the Japanese yen. We also have fears of a wider conflict emerging in the Middle East. And on top of all of that, we are in August, which is historically a low-volume month in the stock market, and we are in an election year. So put simply, there is a lot of stuff weighing on markets right now. There is a lot of uncertainty on the horizon, and the stock market absolutely hates uncertainty. So with that in mind, let's talk about NVIDIA. I am bullish on the long-term future of NVIDIA, especially as more hyperscalers like Microsoft, Meta, and Amazon increase their capex spending on AI by billions of dollars. At the same time, I am cautious right now. If the entire market is worried about a recession, then that is going to weigh down on NVIDIA. With everything that's going on in the world right now, I'm hesitant to say where I think NVIDIA stock is likely to move in the short term because there are just too many unknown factors right now. Back on June 20th and 21st, I told you I was expecting softening in NVIDIA's price and choppy price action, likely lasting into mid to late July. We got that. I also told you that I was looking for pre-anticipatory running in NVIDIA once we entered August as we got closer to NVIDIA's next earnings report on August 28th, but here's the thing. The market has changed since then. If the entire market were calm right now, then I would be looking for pre-anticipatory running into earnings. But if the entire market is fearful of a recession throughout the month of August, then I would not be looking for pre-anticipatory running into earnings. At this point, there are just too many unknowns in the rest of the market. Also about the information article saying that Blackwell is delayed. I don't know if that article is true or not. I really don't. And I am hesitant to believe anything from the financial press without hearing a statement directly from the company. If there is a delay in Blackwell, I don't think that is a long-term concern for investors. I think it would be more of a short-term speed bump, but nothing to be concerned about regarding the long-term future of NVIDIA. Demand for Blackwell is still insanely high, and I expect NVIDIA to capitalize on that demand as soon as they can. With all of that being said, I hope you are all well and staying calm in this market, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts on NVIDIA in the comments below. Please leave a like on this video so more people will see it. And while you're down there, please consider subscribing. It's free, and you can always change your mind. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.